The Vor Trooper, their primary war form, is an interesting specimen. Coming in no less than 5 versions, 2 of which are dedicated to either close or long-range combat. Their original designations as Vor Trooper 1 to Vor Trooper 5 lack a clear classification, so I'll be referring to them by the titles I have assigned. We will begin with a basic breakdown of their anatomy before starting an analysis of the individual variations. Unlike the Vor drone, which shares similar traits with Earth's cockroaches, the Trooper appears to take a page out of the Ant Family Handbook, comprised of 3 main body parts, the head, thorax, and abdomen, and possesses 6 limbs, however, only 4 seem designed for locomotion. Its head is small and hard to distinguish from its thorax, holding 2 compound eyes that have a full 300 degrees of vision on its surroundings, and 2 short antennae. In the way the Trooper stands, its head faces forward, but when lying down, the truth of the head position on the underside of the thorax seems counterintuitive. But when accounting for the small frame of the thorax, its upright position makes its profile from the front very thin. Its abdomen works as a counterbalance and main hub to most, if not all, their required necessary organs and glands. The body of the Trooper is covered in a thick carapace consistent with modern body armor, with some variations between the different versions. Beneath this carapace I have found several bladders that are linked to the Trooper's respiratory system, and if I am correct, would allow it to hold oxygen in its body to swim below the surface of the water. The shell itself is also extremely flexible despite its tough texture, and works very effectively at retaining the Trooper's body heat, coupled with the fact it doesn't change its qualities even in a vacuum. I believe the Trooper can survive being exposed to the void of space for a few minutes, if not an hour. Its head does possess mandibles, but its mandibles are small and meant only for feeding and not combat. However, it has a small gland in the back of its throat that it uses to spit out highly corrosive bile in a wide spray as a fallback weapon if engaged in melee combat. Despite its importance to any living creature, its primary nerve cluster is not in its head, but behind it in the thorax. The Trooper's abdomen is large and robust, carrying all the Trooper's vital organs, including 2 more nerve clusters. The third one is dense like the one found in drones. This has led me to believe these smaller nerve clusters are the connection nodes to the hive mind, where the other clusters work to manipulate the individual unit. As for its limbs, 4 are attached directly to its abdomen to work for locomotion and are very robust and thick in design, clearly meant to allow for movement in all environments, with the ability to fold out membranes to act as flippers or micro wings for slowing its fall from heights. The Trooper can seemingly push any terrain without slowing due to obstacles. The bottom of its legs is also equipped with 4 thick retractable graspers with hooks on the ends for it to climb. If the snap of these limbs is accurate, these graspers could hold its body weight with ease, allowing it to scale any surface it can get a hold in and move, potentially even upside down on ceilings. Its other 2 limbs are attached to the thorax and serve different functions, however all are meant purely for combat. Of the Troopers I have had the pleasure of examining, I have identified 4 different weapons that I had to collaborate with associates over the potential lethality of each. Each one is attached by limbs a bit smaller in size than its legs, however they appear to be far denser in muscle mass. We will begin the breakdown of each limb design and its associated Trooper, beginning with the Warrior. The Vor Warrior is one of 2 meant purely for melee combat that has no room for defensive action. Its 2 limbs are ended in long double-sided scything talons capable of cutting through steel, though with some difficulty. Its forward-facing carapace is thicker and hardened to a density similar to ceramic ballistic armor, and is the only variant equipped with wings that allow for assistance in jumping, granting it the capability of clearing a vertical height of 30 feet in a single leap, rendering defensive walls useless. According to reports from the first engagements, it seems this breed is meant as a shock assault unit, designed to overwhelm defenses in a sea of themselves. They are fast and have been recorded to use their wings to close gaps of 30 feet in a jump when closing with our soldiers. My investigation into their armored carapace has found a weakness. The Warrior's armored body is constantly secreting an oil to maintain flexibility for movement. This oil is highly flammable and burns until spent without a way to put it out short of starving it of oxygen. The next version of the Vor Trooper is also meant for melee, however, unlike the warrior, it can work with the other versions in a defensive nature. This version I will be designating as Footmen. The Footmen is equipped with a long appendage that acts like a pneumatic spear and a large shield of carapace with a density equal to light armored vehicles. This version is reported to act as mobile cover and armor for the other 3 versions and does so to great effect. The pneumatic spear has a biocrystal head tough enough to punch a hole in medium armored vehicles. Due to its large shield, it lacks the thick armor of the warrior, and they are reported to move in formations with a high level of coordination. Small arms short of 50 caliber weapons will harmlessly bounce off its armored shield. However, I have found their spears weak to shearing and bending force, as I was able to snap the head off of one with my hand. Moreover, their spearheads are weak to sonic attacks, shattering at a few decibels below tempered glass. Next, I will move on to the Vor Trooper 3, which I will be referring to as a bile thrower. As the name suggests, this version is designed to project out a thick and viscous bile over an area. However, this bile is extremely poisonous and was difficult to find an effective and safe counteragent. Equipped with a large projector for this bile, this one is the most easily noticeable of the versions due to the large sac that inflates just before it fires. The projector itself is large and a bit cumbersome, requiring both of the bile thrower's limbs to hold its weapon. It should not be considered defenseless in melee combat, as the end of its weapon is hooked with a similar consistency as the talon of the warrior breed. And like the warrior, it shares a weakness, utilizing the same heavy armor design on the forward-facing side of its body. The Trooper 4 version is the first that I would count as capable of true range combat. I have named this version a Spitter. Equipped with 2 copies of a weapon of horrific design, the Spitter fires living ammunition. The small larvae it fires have a hard faceplate with enough density to strike with a force similar to 5.56 NATO rounds. These larvae are, however, not meant to live or grow, instead eat their target's biomass until they produce enough chemical compounds to detonate themselves within the victim's body, acting like a delayed fuse grenade. After an exhaustive series of tests with the help of my colleagues, I have found a compound that is safe to be used in the wounds of such weapons that will kill the larvae quickly and safely, though the victims will still need surgery to remove the dead larvae. I recommend utilizing artillery to destroy any large concentrations of this version with extreme prejudice. The last version of the Vor Trooper I have named Hunters. The Hunter version is equipped with a cumbersome but deadly needle thrower that requires both of its arms to wield. This version seems intentionally designed for the heavily armored Biotitan forms. The needle it fires is a crystallized version of the bile used by the bile thrower and can hit with enough force to go through the armor of our main battle tanks. However, ERA seems to effectively deflect the needle off target. This version is the only variant whose carapace is weak enough to be penetrated by small arms fire of pistols or submachine guns. Nevertheless, they are hard to spot in the massing swarms of troopers and will intuitively target out officers and commanding soldiers.